All right, now it's time to add our posts and our sparrow that wrap the drawing up. And normally I say don't use black, and normally I don't, and this color here is actually not black. It's close. It's kind of a dark brownish charcoal color. So again, black just tends to be overpowering, so in a drawing like this I normally won't use it. All right, we're going to place our post, and I'm just going to lay it in here, and here I'm using the edge of the chalk. I'm just going to come down just like that, about 2 lengths. Now here is where I'm going to use a blending stump just a little bit, because I want this to be a bit more solid. So I'm going to establish the post first before I put in any of the other ones. Okay, now I can come back in. Let's add a little bit more pigment here. Okay, and sometimes with this I'm going to add in a stick that's coming off the side. So this is a corner post. I don't know if you've ever noticed out in the country, you see barbed wire fences. Whenever you come to the corner post, it's reinforced because the fence lines, the weight of them will pull the corner post over if it doesn't have some kind of reinforcement. So I'm going to add that in. Okay. Now, having placed that one will let me place the other ones. And again, I'm not going to be just super precise here because in the country, old fence posts tend to not be very precise. I live out in the country, so I see a lot of falling down fences, and this is an old kind of decrepit falling down fence. So I'm just going to draw a line there. You notice it's not nearly as wide, and it's obviously shorter. Although it, if you brought it right up beside it, it would be about the same length. But and I'm going to throw one more. You don't need a whole lot. That one's actually a little bit on the wide side. And it's a little bit too big, but what I'm going to do to compensate, I'm going to add a little width to this one, and that'll balance them out just a little bit. And you can go on. I mean, I could put a little dot down here to kind of indicate the next one. But you don't want to just go too far, because again, you don't want that to pull too many eyes away from the main focus of the painting. Now, a couple of things that we'll need to do to this. We've got the basic shape in, but we want to refine that a little bit. We also don't want, you see how the bottom it just kind of goes, boom there. We want to kind of soften that and make it look like it's standing in a field that's been growing around it. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's come back in with another shade of brown and add a little, just a little different coloring there. And I'm going to even come in with a lighter and come right down the edge. And I'm going to use the very edge, and I'm just going to draw some vertical lines here just to kind of give it the feel of an old craggy post. Come in here and add a little bit of dark blue. Again, that's kind of darken that value just a touch. I'm going to use my blending stump to get some of that color out of there. Okay, and maybe pull it in this direction here just a little bit. And you can, again, you can tweak and play and do all sorts of things with it. But essentially, what we want to do is just give the feel of old craggy tent posts, and just a few extra lines of color there will do more than enough to get that feel. Now, to do the with barbed wire, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. You can use something like a Sharpie marker. The problem is with excuse me, with doing that is Sharpie going on top of pastel doesn't always work real well. I use Sharpie a lot if I'm working with watercolor, but on top of pastel it tends to soak up the chalk, and the chalk keeps it from showing up. You could use a colored pencil or pastel pencil, which is basically pastel chalk in pencil excuse me in pencil form. I'm just going to use today I'm just going to use the same dark brown that I used here. Okay, now I said early on, you don't want to use the corner of the chalk. Well, this is one time when you do, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to get a line here that's going to work. So I'm going to use the corner. I'm not going to press very hard, and I'm just going to kind of pull it. It doesn't have to be very straight. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to come here. I'm going to start here. Now I'm going to create a little bit of perspective because I want those lines to kind of converge. So I'm going to go down and do the bottom one, and I'm going to actually pull it up. See how that top one went down a little bit. This middle one, this bottom goes up, and the middle one I'm going to just kind of let go straight, and that's going to give me at least a little feel of, again, perspective and distance. And I'm hardly even doing anything but just holding the chalk and dragging it here. Okay, as it goes off. You don't need just a lot of detail. Sometimes I will take a little end here just to kind of show that maybe this whole thing is falling apart. Maybe that fence was supposed to go in that direction and this post is fallen over, who knows. Okay, so we've got our posts drawn in. Now I don't want the post to just look like it just ends there. So what I do is I'm going to come back with the same colors that I used for my flowers, and I'm going to just come up and obscure the bottom of that post a little bit, so it looks like now it's kind of standing in that field. Don't need to do it as much here because these ones are farther away. You're not going to see the detail. Just do a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to throw a few edges in here, get a little variety in that green frontal area. There we go. Foreground. Okay. Now, one thing that I also do on this particular picture is I draw in a vine with some roses, or maybe wild roses, or primroses or something. I'm going to come in here, and this is with my dark green chalk. I'm going to again draw some green in here so it's showing. Then I'm going to just take that same dark green and I'm going to carefully kind of come up around. Okay, so this is going to be like a vine. So it's coming up, it's going around the back, and then I'm going to bring it up here again. I'm going to bring it up. Okay, I'm going to bring it out on that side, so it's gone around and it's coming up and it's coming out here, and there we go. Okay, so I've got a vine here, and now I'm going to take some red pastel. You can use whatever color you want. I just want something that's going to stand out from the rest of all of this yellow. It's going to kind of break it up, and I'm just not really working very hard on these flowers. Again, just kind of dotting them in. Adds a little bit of contrast there, a little bit of extra color. I'm going to take that same dark green and I'm going to come up here, and on my vine I'm going to add some what are basically leaves, but then on top of those is where I will put, again, I'm going to come in, I'm going to press really hard using the corners this time. Okay, and these are almost like little buds that are kind of starting to come out and blossom. Okay, so then might put a few more out here just to make it interesting. Okay, so now we've got the fence posts. We've got the flowers. We only have one more thing to draw, and that is the sparrow. And that, unfortunately, is also the most challenging of the entire project. So for a second, I'm going to move this paper over. I'm going to work on the paper that I have underneath to show you basically how we're going to draw this. It's not easy to do, again, with a particularly big stick of chalk. So drawing the bird is, you'll if you try to put a lot of detail into it, you're going to just end up with a lump. So basically, and you can see even here, I'm having too much, too much stuff there. So I'm gonna, and a lot of times, if I'm doing this with lecturer's chalk, I actually will break off a little tiny chunk. But also when I'm doing a chalk drawing, even though my bird is still very small, it's considerably larger than it is here. Okay, so I'm going to do a line, okay, and then I'm going to put a kind of a half circle underneath the line, okay, and then at the very top of the line, maybe I should draw this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw kind of a half circle, color that in. Okay, I'm going to, for lack of a better word, kind of a teardrop shape. And then I'm going to work off of that line, draw a triangle, and then just a couple legs down. Okay, so that's basically how I'm going to draw the bird. Again, I'm not going to draw it in great detail. I'm going to suggest that bird. And again, it's quite a challenge, which is why most of the time when I do this, I will do it with colored pencil, just so I can get a better feel for the detail. Okay, in a smaller format, I'm going to come do that line, do the semicircle underneath, do a little teardrop, okay, make a triangle, and then a lot of times I will take that kind of yellow orange and I'll add a little beak. There it is. And sometimes I'll come in here and give it a kind of a robin's red breast. Okay, even though we're singing "His Eye is on the Sparrow," it's his eye is on the robin here. Okay, so what I would suggest is that you practice doing that in kind of a larger format and practice several times doing one about the right size before you go in and you try to do this on your paper, because if it doesn't work, you're going to be frustrated. So practice that a few times and then come back, and then we will try to do it. So okay, so I have practiced. First thing I want is a good corner, and I'm not seeing any good corners because I've been using those. So this is a lot of times when I will break the chalk so I can have a nice sharp corner. Okay, remember, I'm going to draw my line very carefully. You're going to press down fairly hard at that point. Okay, now about halfway down, and I'm going to draw my semicircle. Okay, then I'm going to use another corner, draw the teardrop. It's going to be the bird's head. Okay, and I'm going to come to the back. I'm going to take the end of that line, make it a bit of a triangle. Okay, I'm going to get some of the extra off there. Okay, and then you can do 2 little straight lines down. Okay, you may not even be able to see those on the video. Okay, and then, then is when adding in like a little of the light brown for the robin's redbreast, and then add a little bit of the yellow orange for the beak, and you can use that yellow orange also for the legs a little bit. Okay, and I think I want to extend that tail out just a little bit more. Okay, and there's my bird. It actually looks better in person than it does on the video, but that gives you an idea. If you're a little bit skittish about trying to do it with the pastels, then go ahead and if you've got some colored pencil, use a dark brown colored pencil, and try it with that. Something that will give you a little bit more control, because it's kind of a challenge working with chalk in that tiny a format. Well, there you have it. A very fun to draw, easy to draw project. It might take you, I say easy, but it's easy for me because I've been doing it for 30 some years, but it's really not that difficult. You're just working with shapes. Remember, for the clouds, overhand circles, pretty much the same for the trees. It's something that with a little practice I think you can do, and do quite well. So I hope that you'll try this and have some fun with it, and I hope you'll also send us some photos of your project so that we can see them. And I think that's going to do it for this time around in Adventures in Art. We're going to be doing several of these this year, and each one will be a different kind of project, a different medium, and just a lot of fun to practice and experiment with different kinds of artwork. Remember, one of the main things in doing art like this is having fun, so I hope you have fun with this, and if it doesn't come out quite right, then do it again. The one thing that I've learned as an artist is that it's all about practicing, and the more I practice, the better I get. So I hope that you will practice, that you'll have some fun, and stay tuned. We'll come out with a new project not very long. Thanks. I'm Jim Pence with See the Light.